We must be mad, literally mad, as a nation, to be permitting the annual inflow of some 50,000 dependents, who are, for the most part, the material of the future growth of the immigrant-descended population. It is like watching a nation busily engaged in heating up its own funeral pyre. Country, in 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white man. I can already hear the chorus of execration. How dare I say such a horrible thing? As I look ahead, I am filled with foreboding, like the Roman. I seem to see the river Tiber foaming with much blood. That tragic and intractable phenomenon, which we watch with horror on the other side of the Atlantic, but which is interwoven with the history and existence of the states itself, is coming upon us here by our own volition and our own neglect. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make.
By insisting he accept their lies as real. By insisting he was never to his people tied. By dictating exactly what he might feel. By permitting bawdy joy, but never pride. They believed a lion could be brought to heel. That a lion could from his courage be pride. That the lion himself would learn to kneel. that a lion would not care, even if his line died. That the lion himself would accept such a deal. In the end, it was only to themselves they had lied.
Welcome to, I think it's like episode 3 of season 2 of Stream of Consciousness for 2026. I am your host, John McGowan, Australia's least hardest working conservative activist, and joining me tonight is Dan Ryan, National Conservatives Australia, one of the hardest working guys in Australian conservative activism. I usually say that about Brian, but Brian isn't with us. The chat's going wild because I wasn't quick enough to actually put it on the promo that you were coming on. So, welcome, man. Great to see you.
Thanks, man.
How's it all going?
Good. We're working hard because there's a national debt to pay off. No one else seems to care. I just came from a wine and cheese function here in Brisbane with the Robert Menzies Institute, who are launching their book. So I thought I'm trying to straddle these two worlds between the hoity-toity set and the front bar of Australian politics, which is stream business. So
this is us. This is the front bar, I literally just came from the front bar. I was rushing home and I was fucking around and literally only got in 10 minutes ago. So yeah, we are the we're bringing the multiple parts of Australian right-wing thought together tonight. Wine and cheese night, though, really? Are we still doing that? When the Liberals are on 19%, are we really still doing that?
It was the 33rd floor of in the Mallison's law offices here in Brisbane, overlooking the river, and lots of wine and cheese, lots of canopies, and no one was talking too much about the polls.
Yeah. So, but what's the feeling from these guys, right? I mean, and like, and more importantly, what's your feeling? We haven't spoken in a while. I think the last time you and I were talking, we were saying, look, it could happen, but will it happen? Well, it's happened. It's happened. Yeah. The country is changing. The world is changing. What's the feeling out there in shirt sleeves land on this stuff?
Well, I there's denial, right? I think there's still denial. Yeah. I'm kind of I have trouble quite believing the polls as well. That they're as bad as they are. The wave was always going to come, hit Australia, but why in particular is it sort of really accelerated in the last 3 to 4 months? Why do you think, John? Is it Bondi? Is it
no?
Barnaby?
I think it's my read on it is it started well before Bondi. It started well before Barnaby Joyce. It started because these guys are just incompetent. And when you look at, I mean, Redbridge is all over the shop, and I wouldn't take their poll with, I would take it with a healthy pinch of salt. But the one thing I do trust Cos on is his demographic breakdowns. And I mean, this is something I've been saying for a while. The problem has long been like me, guys my age, the Gen X cohort. The guys who were in 2004, the Howard Battlers who were buying the McMansions, getting the EBAs under old work choices, right? The guys who got left behind were always going to be the problem. But when you actually break it down into what their thought process is, it's no one cares about them at all. No one gives a single shit about them. And this kicked in well before Barnaby, well before March for Australia. Like, this has been stewing for 6-7 months, right? I think we were all, in a way, I mean, I can't remember when you and I last spoke. I think it might have been like August last year. We were all picking up on it. We were all picking up on something shifting out there. And we're all coming at it with different ideas about what it could mean. Like, is it going to be a new party? Is it going to be some kind of new political movement? Public's made the decision for us, right? Because they've just said, look, something needs to change, and it needs to change fast. And the fastest way between 2 points, is 25% One Nation primary. And that's where it's going.
There are a couple of options, right? There was reform the Liberal Party to make them understand the new right NatCon policy framework required to win, which that none of them still understand and would be reluctant to agree with, even if they did understand it. There was establish a new political party of some description, which was able to be the new vehicle for this policy framework, or there was go with a name we can trust, One Nation, and try to professionalize that. And I think that's what where ultimately people have landed, right?
There was that hilarious moment in the last federal election where we even thought it could have been Jared Rennick.
Jared is still out there. He's a good guy.
He's still out there,
3,000 paid members. It's not nothing. I think there's only about 10 or 12,000 in Queensland. So.
I think at this point that maybe Jared is cannibalizing the Libertarians. That the Jared Rennick Libertarian cohort is now the same, and I don't know how impactful he's going to be in the populist future of Australia. It is crazy how quickly they move, though, and. Look, I mean, I think those of us, on our side of politics with a certain IQ, I mean, I think we bear some of the blame for this ultimately. Like we can't sit there and say, "Oh, I wish it was someone other than Pauline Hanson," because we didn't do anything. Like we had the opportunity. We've all been sitting.
I don't know. I mean, we've been trying in our different ways to get the existing political parties to understand it. It's just they won't.
Yeah.
And it's actually not that complicated. Yeah. Like trade, immigration, foreign policy. That's what JD Vance has been saying. That's what the NatCons have been saying. That's what Trump said when he first came down the escalator. They were the issues, but they are the issues that the existing Liberal consensus here in Australia will not move on. If you try to convince them that,
the Liberals have an unprecedented paralysis that I don't think has ever been seen anywhere else in the world, because what normally happens with a party which is comprised of two factions is that maybe one faction will read the tea leaves and say, hey, it is more important to win than to win the national vote than it is to win in this handful of seats. The moderates were incapable of doing that. The right, the liberal right, were not just incapable of reading the tea, like they were just incapable of reading. Like they had no idea which way things were going to go. So you had this doubling down on administrative incompetence that meant the moderates missed the mood. The moderates were sitting there going, oh, maybe if we just talk about climate change and Pride Month more, we'll win Kooyong, right? And then the right was sitting there thinking, well, we'll just do nothing. And somehow 2004 will happen again without any outside influence. Neither of those things has happened.
It's not just the Liberal Party in Australia, though. I was listening to, a trigonometry podcast. I was doing a walk this morning, and Robert Jenrick, who was a former Tory minister, he resigned and quit and has joined Reform. And the way he describes the Conservative Party of Britain is so much like the Liberal Party in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
They have been over the years supposedly the most successful political party ever because of their ability to adapt and this, that, and the other. But neither of these, the Australian version or the UK version, have been able to adapt.
I appreciate where that's coming from, that they're the most successful party. Ours is, theirs is. But I dispute it. And my retort is, Crosby Textor is the most successful political consultancy in human history. And yes, they were enormously successful in the UK for many years. They were enormously successful here for the better part of 20 years. When Crosby Textor stopped being good, the Liberals and Conservatives stopped being good. And so what we are seeing today is not so much the decline of the Liberals or the decline of the Conservative Party. We're seeing the decline of Linton Crosby's business. We're seeing the decline of the campaign strategies that Crosby Textor patented and sold across the world. And they sold them to the Canadians, also not doing great. They sold them to the New Zealanders, also not doing great. They sold them to legacy Republicans, also not doing great, right? And so what this really is the end of a certain style of politics that was popularized by a handful of really smart people. And that's the shocking truth of global politics is these guys, whether it's the Republicans in the US, the Conservatives in the UK, the Liberals in Australia, the Nationals in New Zealand, the whatever the hell they're called in Canada, they were never that smart, right? They just hired the smartest guys. And when you can't hire the smartest guys anymore, the whole system falls apart, and it turns out the emperor has no clothes.
But do you think, John, even if Crosby Textor had polled and they'd found out the Australian public are up for a reconsideration of trade agreements with China and aren't so into 30 years of foreign interventions or against mass immigration, that the Liberal Party leaders would have actually adjusted? Because doesn't that just go against the grain? They're not going to turn the ship around even if they have the data.
But this was Linton Crosby and Mark Textor's, and to a lesser extent Mark Fulbrook, their genius was the product they were selling for all those years was never actually the polling, right? The polling was what they told the Guardian they were selling, because those kinds of people are irrelevant. What they were really selling was they do the polling and then they convince the ruling party of what to say, right? It's the conversation where they say, this is how you win. It's the conversation where they say, look, the way to win might not even be that ideologically inclined to where you currently are. This is how we take you from there to where you need to be to win. That's what's gone now. And I mean, I talk to guys nowadays who still are foolish enough to hire Crosby Textor, and they say, like, nowadays it's just a polling company. Like, you ring them up, you get a poll, it's not even particularly good. That was what you were always paying the money for. It was to have those guys sit in the room and tell you how to win against all logic, against whatever you even believed in. Like, how many times did the Liberals win in Australia against the Liberal grain, right? In times in Australian history where we were running against liberalism, where we were running away from it. And Crosby Textor still told Howard and then later the others how to adapt the message so that they could still win. That's all gone now. There's no one doing that. Like, we're running blind in Australia now. And I think that's what fundamentally, when you look at these polls, when you look at One Nation's surge, this is what is happening. It's the entire country is making its own mind up for the first time ever, without any psyop, without anyone guiding them towards the light. They're in a vacuum. We're all in a vacuum. And the public is saying, fuck these guys, I'm voting for Pauline Hanson. Which is hilarious.
So you think the polls are an existential event for the Liberal Party. I mean, Georgina Downer.
Oh, they're doomed.
Who's very nice, but she's from South Australia, and some of the polls for the Liberals in South Australia. I mean, was there one at? Was there one? I'm imagining, was there one at 6% or something?
There was one at 6%. We broke this story here on this podcast a couple of weeks ago that the South Australian Liberal leadership had approached the Clerk of the Parliament to seek advice on what happened if they got 0 seats. So that's how bad they think it could potentially go in South Australia. The South Australian Liberals are sitting there paranoid that they could get 0 seats.
But that also means funding, John, right? They won't get, the things that keep these parties alive are the funding.
Money. It's the admin funding. Yeah. So look, that style of politics that the Liberals epitomise, it's entering a dark time. And I don't know if it can recover from it. I don't know if it should recover. But and I mean, I think for guys like us on the fringes of it, looking in and trying to speak a degree of truth to it, trying to, like I see our whole role in all this as being the especially as things shift towards one nation, someone's got to be the smart guy in the room, right? Like someone's got to, kind of sensibly articulate some of this stuff. The question for us is, well, do we even want that to change? Are we going to get more of what we want through one nation over the next 3 years? Or do we want to see Liberal Conservatives somehow claw back a margin? And I don't know the answer to that. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
I read something online. It said that, when you step back, the truly successful new right political success has come from the States, where a guy took over an existing party. Now, that's in the UK. It's yet to be seen, although the polls are very favourable, whether reform will ultimately form, win and form government. And likewise here, whether, who knows what will happen here. Well, do you genuinely believe that even if more funding comes in and better candidates are attracted to join One Nation, and they professionalize and they root out, they professionalize the management, let's put it that way, that it truly could become a realistic prospect of not, if not winning government the first time around, then winning government the second time around? Are they genuinely going to become the opportunity in Australia?
I believe that they are a realistic prospect of winning government this time round with the least professional incarnation. And that's why this is so important, because the public isn't sitting there. The Joe and Jane Mundane in marginal seats are not sitting there like you and I going, oh, is anyone really going to vote for a party run by James Ashby? No one knows who James Ashby is. Right? They have already made their mind up to vote for the chaos option. And we've seen this in the US. We saw this in 2016. We actually saw this in 2015 as well with the UK, with Brexit. When the public makes up their mind to vote for the chaos option, telling them that it's the chaos option doesn't work. It actually just makes it worse. Like
I was trying to work out, although, Costa Maris and these people won't put the question in these terms, but how big is the FU constituency out there that just
I think it's universal.
Is it 20 or 30% of the electorate?
I think it's at least 30%. I think the entire fuck you electorate is probably worth close to 40% and includes everyone who's voting for the Greens. And I think it's just getting bigger every day. And I said this on our podcast last week, and I've been saying it for a couple of weeks. Like I've taken a bet with everyone that I think One Nation is going to hit 30% on 1 July. I've framed it insofar as that I think One Nation will hit 30% before I do my taxes, just to give me some flexibility. But I really think that they're just going to keep going, because I think the Australian public has reached that point that the British reached with Brexit, that the Americans reached with Donald Trump, where it's no longer about replacing the government. It is about punishing the government. And it's not about what Pauline Hanson will do, because she's been rising in the polls now for months while doing nothing. It is about what Pauline Hanson winning will do to them. It is no longer enough to beat Anthony Albanese. It is no longer enough to beat Susan Lee. You have to destroy them. And look, if Anthony Albanese were to lose to Susan Lee in 2028, he would stand up in his press conference and go, oh, well, we all had a really good election campaign and we fought fair, and everyone would move on and the Australian political establishment would endure. If anyone gets beaten by Pauline Hanson, that's it. You're done. Pauline Hanson is winning is like the Australian public just took a shit on you. Like they just said, no, it's not enough for you to lose. We have to make you lose and to be ashamed. You have to go. You'll be banished from Australian civil society. I think that's what's happening, which is very much what happened with Brexit. Was always my impression was that. But British
John,
public,
like it is reform. You know, they won on Brexit. The two major parties were on the opposite sides. In Australia, at least, the Libs were notionally against the Voice. So, and then once that issue died off, then the wave has sort of started to come because the public's decided mainly that the major parties aren't serious on mass immigration. I think that's probably the major driving issue around. They've looked around, thought, okay, Rennick's good, nice, or whatever, but Pauline is the standout brand, long-standing brand on this thing. That's the one we need to go for. But what reform are now bringing in some more competent people with the expectation they're actually going to win. There's a more coherent kind of framework there. And, Trump the second time around had benefited so much from the fact that they had a whole lot of like really, really, really smart staffers. I mean, when I was there in Washington in September, it's the staffers, which are these guys who have been tested in fire, argued off, pants off on X over the years, so they know their issues cold. They've professional enough to draft an executive order. It goes up to Stephen Miller. He says yay or nay, and if he says yay, it goes through to the Resolute desk and the publicity. And so there's this conveyor belt of action coming through, which is what you didn't see. So, and I don't know really whether there's anything like that in One Nation. If they are serious,
no, there's not. There's absolutely not. I mean. But this is why you have to kind of look at One Nation now in Australia. Like, the hidden variable in Australian politics is time, right? And where are we on the time scale relative to everyone else? Australia today, right now, we are in the United States of America in 2014. We're not even in 2016, right? We're in 2014. I was in the US in 2015, and when no one believed Trump could do it, but if you were on the ground, you could already see the signs, right? Because we have good polling resources, we might be a little bit further ahead of the curve here. We at least can see the signs, but we're still 2 years out, and we're 2 years out. Albanese isn't going to go for an election before 2028. It's going to be a 2028 election. He's going to want to see what happens. We are that far back. So, like, I appreciate what you say about the quality of the people for Trump 2, which are undeniably better. I mean, Trump 2.0 is like leagues and leaps and bounds ahead of Trump 1.0. We are not on the cusp of electing Trump 2.0. We are on the cusp of electing Trump 1.0. And we have to we have this benefit of hindsight. In Australia, we can look at One Nation now and we can say, okay, well, it's Trump 1.0. So she's going to get in. She's not going to be able to do anything on immigration. Like, she's actually not. Like, it'll just be like Trump 1. Nothing will happen on immigration. She's going to hire losers who are going to wash out. Like, whoever's around her now, I think we can guarantee will not be there midway through the term. The candidates are going to be trash. There's going to be like a never Pauline movement that are going to walk away from it, but they'll all come back for Pauline 2.0. My view, and I'm lucky enough to be able to say this because I don't work for the government and I do this dumb podcast and I have a real job. I'm looking forward to Pauline Hanson 2.0, which is going to be 2031, right?
Will she be older than Trump by then, or how? I mean,
she'll probably be dead. Like, I mean, maybe we can get her like some Weekend at Bernie's thing, or maybe it'll be Barnaby. Who knows? But Pauline 2.0 is going to be amazing. You and I will probably end up working for Pauline 2.0. Pauline 2.0 will have all the never Pauline liberals from the right working in there. Like, it'll be great.
You talk about the never Trumpers in the US. I do think I wrote about this, and I think it was published in the I think it was the Daily Telegraph, where all the existing legacy like intellectual infrastructure, the think tanks, they haven't moved on in the way that Heritage in the state Heritage Foundation has. Like Heritage Foundation is the equivalent of the IPA, and it is now against free trade, skeptical of foreign interventions, against mass immigration in a fundamental way, not just like because the numbers don't add up, we need more housing, but what do we really need this immigration for, really, in terms of, and that's not where these guys are in a million years. Yeah.
Our big problem in Australia, and I think like you and I talked about this last time I went on your podcast, and we were talking about like how many guys, how much DNA of the Bush era was even in Trump. And it's a lot. Our problem is we don't even have the DNA to pass on, right? Like, what have we got here? We got like the IPA, like we got the CIS, like we've got the guys from Advance. Like there's nothing.
Some of the IPA guys, I like the Adam Crichtons and the Dan Wilds, and they are actually, I think, more what I call MatConish than the IPA has been in the past. But I just do think that the IPA is never going to turn around and say we need to renegotiate free trade agreements, or that free trade is somehow fundamentally flawed. That is what has happened in the States.
I mean, and this is kind of the scary thing. Like, it's like the kind of putting your toes at the edge of the cliff with Pauline, because like we're not even at the renegotiating the trade agreements bit. Like we still have to convince these guys about what a trade agreement is.
No, but she has in the past said some things on that. It's just, I think it was the quality of the staffers who work. I did do a bit of a kind of deep dive at one stage to see what she said on this. And she has expressed the sort of right sentiments, but it's one thing to be, skeptical of it in broad terms. It's another thing to put together a policy which actually makes any sort of sense and sophistication, because it is all shits and giggles, but we are talking about the government of a country, so like
a whole country, one of the bigger ones too, like not even a shit one. Like it's not like we're Moldova, like we're one of the largest resource exporters in the world, and like that is one of the only things that scares me about it, because, and look, to her enormous credit, and I'm one of Gina Rinehart's biggest critics, and I'm constantly saying on this podcast how much poorer she is in real life than people think. But Gina Rinehart was smart enough to get in on the ground floor of this. Like, she clearly had someone. I mean, like her new guy, I think Sam Jackson Hope is one of the guys working with her. I think he's an ex-Liberal guy. Clearly people have been saying to her, a change is coming, get in on the ground floor of it. My worry is that Hanson, with no expertise, with no one to help her, she is going to drink a lot of that Reinhardt Kool-Aid, and they're not going to kind of embrace Australia's export power on trade the way they should. I mean, we are a powerhouse. We are pulling this shit out of the ground. We are sending it all over the world. It's not just Gina Rinehart. She has her kind of sectional interest in it, but there is a whole economy that does this, and if you collectivize it, you can have an enormous amount of power, particularly over China, who need this stuff. Otherwise people are going to starve to death and die. But we're not going to go down that path. We're going to go down the very basic Matt Canavan, let's just get rid of net zero and let us do whatever the fuck we want. I think that's a risk with them, but look, I think for mainstream Australians, the big thing is immigration. Like, that's all they're caring about. They're not sitting there looking at the national.
Is there a way, do you think, that the Libs can reestablish some credibility on immigration? Could they possibly do it?
There are some smart guys in there, and surprise, surprise, they are all senators, right? No one in a lower house seat thinks like this. Some of their good guys in the Senate are saying this exact thing. Can we pivot to a sane immigration position that could, and like they're lowballing, they're saying like, could it at least save us 5%? But And like it probably could, if you look at how the numbers would stack up, it probably would save them 5%, but it's going to nuke them in key seats. And so that the system the Liberals have created for selecting and electing people, which prioritizes the needs of these marginal seats, election on election, it's just coming back to bite them in the ass, because now you've got all these guys in marginal seats saying, no, you can't change the position on immigration. I've got immigrants in my seat and I'm on 0.5%. Fuck you. So,
but can't you look around the world? I'm always surprised. I mean, I chat to people, people from the UK on the podcast occasionally, and I'm surprised that in the past, I'm surprised how forthright some of the political rhetoric is coming out, even from mainstream pollies in the UK, compared to Australia. Whereas in the past, we sort of had supposedly a reputation for being much more, direct in our politics. That's not the case anymore. Even if you listen to, good old nice, Liz Truss or Robert Jenrick or any of these guys, they say things which are sort of beyond the realms of possibility here in Australia. Britain needs to have immigration in the tens of thousands, not the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Imagine that in Australia.
I go back to my point about how the collapse of Crosby Textor is the collapse of the Western world, right? Because what these guys taught these MPs was it's the margins that matter. Marginal seats matter. Marginal seat campaigning matters. And so all conservative politics used to be played out in the needs and wants of marginal electorates. And now in the United Kingdom, because they have had this immigration chaos for going on nigh on 4 or 5 years, there are no marginal ethnic seats, right? There's no one left in the UK going, hey, you got to be nice to the Sudanese and the Indians in my community. Like it's too far gone. So there's no margin
ours is going to be different. I mean, we potentially coming up in the next federal election are going to have 5 quote unquote parties with about 15 to 20% of the vote, depending on what seats. You have Labor, you have Liberal Nats, you have One Nation, you have the Greens, and you have the Teals. I mean, God, feed that into your calculator, Anthony Green. I mean, I know he's not working there anymore. How do you even poll? How do you even work out preference deals?
The word around town is that the Australian Democrats are coming back too. Like they smell blood in the water, so they're coming back. And the Christians, right? Because the Christians know. Look, One Nation's not exactly a Christian conservative operation.
No,
so
she was on a podcast the other day and Colin said she has no religion.
So I can see that you're going to have, whether it's Christian Democrats or Family First or whatever the hell they want to call themselves, they're going to be popping back up as well. Look, you're not going to have UAP. I think UAP's done, so there's 5%. You're not, I think, going to have like some of the other weird and wonderful right-wing parties. I think the Libertarians are probably going to plateau at about 1.5. Rennick will run like idiotically in Queensland. I don't think there's going to be. I mean, this is Cos Samaras' thing, right? Like he keeps saying, "Oh, the right is atomizing." Actually, no, the right is doing the opposite of atomizing. It's just all going to One Nation. That's it. Like there's one. It's going to be a one-party state eventually at the right.
See, I also think that because yes, there's a South Australian election and yes, there's a Victorian election. I think that's all there is this year. But that's part of the problem. You've had this whole period, a year in Queensland at least, where there's no federal, no state, no local elections. So nature abhors a vacuum. People are like they want drama, they want trouble. So let's have it reflected in the polls.
Queensland could potentially be okay, but for the simple reason that Christopher Foley isn't doing that badly. I mean, every data set I've looked at in the last couple of weeks is sending the same message: is that there's Australia, and then there's Queensland, and then weirdly there's Tasmania. we could end up with a hilarious scenario where the last Liberals standing are actually down here in Tassie, which is funny because that same thing happened in 2007. In 2007, when Howard lost, there was a Howard wipeout. Labor in New South Wales, Labor took every state. And there was like a couple of years where the most senior Liberals in the entire country were Campbell Newman, who was the mayor of Brisbane, and Will Hodgman. Yeah. And I think that's where they're going to end up with. That's what they're going to end up with. As the collapse.
But John, I don't think I say this occasionally, and people I don't quite get it, but Queensland at the moment is the largest centre-right government in the Anglo Commonwealth.
Oh yeah. No, I saw that the other day. Yeah.
So it's like,
and Christopher Foley doesn't appreciate it. Like he doesn't get it. Like,
we should be like the global leader for the fight, but I don't think there's that attitude here. I don't think they've appreciated that. There's no one else. Well, there's no one else.
The reason they don't appreciate it is because of the way our electoral system works, and it's because they don't see it. And this is what's driving the frustration between the Nationals and the Liberals. Like, I don't like the Nationals as much as anyone. Like, they're idiots and meatheads.
I like some of them. I like Canavan and whatever. They're all right. They're all right. I
didn't even know who I didn't even know who Colin Boyce was until last week. But
he's a good guy. Yeah. Anyway,
there is one, but the thing the Nationals were 100% right about is that no one was giving a shit about their guys. And like, this is what drove Barnaby to leave, is that there is this just gulf, this profound disconnect between the Metropolitan Liberals and, let's face it, the Metropolitan Nationals, since much of their administration is Metropolitan, and the actual people on the ground. Now, in the United States, this is electorally viable because of the way their system works. Country seats, rural and regional seats can have an outsized influence, but they can't here. Like, these folks in national seats are sitting there and they don't matter. No one cares about them because you can hold governments by going out to the western suburbs of Sydney, by going out to I don't even know what direction it is, but the shitty suburbs of Victoria, the southwestern pocket of Brisbane. You can hold government with that. So there's no reason for any of these people to really take that much notice of what these people think. And that I think is what has driven the breakup with the coalition.
Yeah, well, I think the Nats I mentioned 5 parties that could contest, get about 15 to 20%, depending on what electorate, obviously, but nationally. And the Nats, they're in that, they have to be grouped together with the Libs, but I think they're particularly vulnerable, right? Because they're much more directly up against One Nation in the rural and regional seats. I mean, it's just it's hard to know what to do with those guys because I think people like Canavan, I knew, they're fighting the good fight on many issues. But they're probably not strong enough on immigration, and they're probably not strong enough. I mean, One Nation owned the guns issue, for example.
I know.
The Nats are not really there. And they're
probably
not
lost gun issue for years,
Yeah.
And, look, I'm not a huge fan of the gun issue either. I think it's kind of done and dusted. But I mean, you got the shooters and fishers out there. They've done enormously well in New South Wales in the past. They've lost that to them. I mean, the Nationals wear some of the blame too, historically, particularly amongst gun owners. I mean, they were a party to the 96 reforms. Like, I think they've kind of written off the gun vote. There's just really not that much left for them. And agricultural business has changed a lot too. Like, the Nats really exploited the kind of golden age of landed gentry, and that doesn't really exist anymore. Like, the businesses have changed. You've got a lot more like innovation going on through like agribusiness and small startups, people who have more kind of inclination to Liberal Party policies than National Party ones, which are generally about protecting, the old brotherhood that meets down at the club. So yeah, not all these guys are suffering from the world getting ahead of them. Like, they don't understand the world they live in anymore. and then they've been left
John,
behind.
the Libs, I don't think have actually won back a seat within 20k of a capital city CBD. Do you think there's any chance that One Nation can actually go better? Because I saw a poll thing just then, which said that One Nation actually rate higher on climate change than the Libs do.
Yeah. I know. I saw that one. That's crazy. I think, I mean, if you want to like stretch the 20Ks out as the crow flies, there might be a couple of seats in New South Wales that they could do well in if they can get past 26, 27%, but it'll be a punish. The Liberals have done abysmally in metropolitan seats, and the last time they did well anywhere would have been 2011, 2013. They haven't done well since then. I mean, in 2011, 2013, state and federal, so there was a state election in 2011, then a federal in 2013, which was the high watermark for Tony Abbott. They were within 1% of Tanya Plibersek's seat in both those campaigns. So it's the seat of Sydney, which is now held by Alex Greenwich, and the seat of whatever the hell they're calling it now federally, which is Tanya's. They ran a really good candidate. He was like a heart surgeon, like liberal heartland kind of guy. Came really close. That was probably it. Like, that was the high watermark. I mean, Jesus, that's 13 years ago, which is crazy, right? That was probably the last time they did well.
We talked about how the Liberal Party would struggle to reestablish credibility on immigration. What if, the Labor Party aren't stupid? What if they turned around in the next couple of weeks and said, Senator Paul Scar, your immigration policy is too soft. We, the Labor Party, are taking mass immigration seriously. We are now going to implement a Canadian-style, leftoid government in Canada implemented pretty severe crackdown on immigration.
That is.
UK Labor have done the same thing. Why wouldn't Australian Labor do that?
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And that is the single biggest risk for both the Liberals and One Nation in the next 2 years. It's, Nordic style pantsuit nationalism from the ALP. It's because they can do it. I mean, there's some impediments here that they don't have elsewhere. And it's the same kind of impediments that are preventing Keir Starmer from doing it. It's the fact that we have a dual factional Labor Party and the left are currently ascendant. There's the question of some of these marginal seats. There's the Tony Burkes, etc. But I mean, I could very much see a scenario from Labor if things got worse. And actually, the latest Redbridge polls are showing some pretty severe movement from Labor to One Nation in outside of Victoria and New South Wales. So Victoria and New South Wales, the movement to One Nation is almost entirely restricted to the Libs. But in the ACT, in Tasmania and in WA, you are seeing Labor voters switch to One Nation. And I could see a scenario where that infects the entire country, particularly if Labor continue to be weak on immigration. They're playing a shell game right now with it. Right. So last year they said we're going to cut immigration numbers. They actually did. To be fair, the letter of the law, they did cut immigration, permanent, like permanent places, and then they raised student visas. And what's clear this year is they're going to lower student visas and raise permanent immigration. So we're going to see this shell game from Labor where they keeping the country's head above, I don't know what we are now, like 0.30 per capita GDP. Like, they know the game. They need to keep it at this level. They just need to keep lying and hiding where the immigration comes from because they don't have a broader economic.
John, I mean, I even heard Pauline the other day on I think some other podcast say that her policy is to reduce permanent immigration numbers to 130,000, I think, per year, which is still a fair amount. And if you compare that
it's not good enough.
if you compare that to the rhetoric of the nice Tory types who are now literally talking about net zero or net negative immigration, remigration, and deportation.
No,
that's not even crossing Pauline's lips at the moment. Do you reckon the lips, if they're really serious, they chat to their Tory mates in London and say, and then an Angus Taylor comes over the top and says, okay, net zero, we're all for it, but on the immigration numbers for the Liberal Party. Do you think is that because that's we're unified front with our brothers in the Conservative brothers in the UK?
So we know this because, thank God, Jared Rennick is the most autistic man in Australian politics, and he did the numbers. So we actually know the number
hotly contested
title, but I think he might be in with a shot for it. Look, we know the number. The number is 60,000. That's the number. It was 60,000 last year. I don't know what it will be this year. If you want to get the net zero migration number is 60,000 permanent per year, right? That's the number. And look, I would prefer to see 30, and I'd do some malarkey there, and I'd say, well, maybe we'll do some shit on temporary refugee places, like particularly from Ukraine, particularly from countries where we know they're going to go back, which Australia did really successfully in the past. Philip Ruddock did it really well during the Kosovo War and things. Like, they brought people over they knew were going to go back. You could get it below 60, but 60 is the starting point. Like, if you want net zero migration, so the point at which we are going to start to see downward pressure on housing prices, right? That's where it is. Now, there's downstream economic impacts on that. You need a recession plan if you do that. But it's 60 is the number. I feel like One Nation's number is them thinking, well, we don't want to piss off the business community. We don't want to piss off the BCA. They're getting some good money out of them. So they're coming up with that.
One Nation. Wait, One Nation are getting some money out of the BCA?
Dude, One Nation are getting good money right now. Everyone in town is saying the same thing, which is that everyone who matters is starting to donate. The wallets are opening, right?
The BCA isn't donating to One Nation. I don't believe they're doing that.
The BCA won't donate to the BCA.
Members, right?
One Nation, but the members are donating to One Nation because. For this exact reason, because they don't want 60,000. They want at least 100,000. They probably want more. 140 is where that's going to start. We have to push that figure down somehow, right? Now, one option is to talk around international student visas and say, do we, try and convince One Nation on national education reform, shred the shit out of international student visa numbers. The problem is all the economists will tell you that's actually where the juice comes from. Like, if your main job is to try and keep the country's head above water from a recession, like you actually want the international students because they spend a fuck ton of money. The problem is family reunification is the biggest problem, right? Because those people are coming out here and they're just hoovering up welfare, right? So economically, all these things that Labor love, that the Liberals love because they matter in their marginal seats, they are the problem.
Do you think there'll ever be, in the next election cycle or one after that, a bigger constituency which isn't going to just talk about immigration in purely economic terms? So it says, look, we need to lower numbers, not just to sort of boost lower housing and get young people housing, but to say, well, if we don't stop this flood, we are going to sort of disappear as a people. I mean, that's the rhetoric which is used in European and even in the UK now.
You're exactly right, but we're so far off that, right? And we're so far off that because every single facet of Australian civil society is devoted to narratives around the disappearance of white culture or Anglo-Celtic culture, Western culture. They are invested in our disappearance, right? So now a lot of people are waking up to it, and that's evident from just One Nation's primary vote. But are we at the point where we can have the national discussion about it? I don't think so. And so we have to do it in a clandestine way. I want to have the debate. You want to have the debate.
They can be done. They can all be done poorly or done well. I mean, it doesn't have to be done in a kind of angry way with animus towards, choose your country that you don't like way. It just has to, like, it's a reasonable kind of point. And I just but it's just not one that the traditional liberal establishment will buy into at all. They find it just impossible to discuss.
We really missed our opportunity to do it with Bondi, right? And it's an awful thing that happened, whatever. But it was an opportunity to have that discussion. Unfortunately, that discussion got occupied by a lot of other sectarian interests who talked about other things, and then we ended up with the hate speech laws. And I think that moment's passed us by, and we can't relitigate it. Look, you can bet your life in the current Australian cultural moment we're in, there's going to be another thing that happens between now and 2028. So just because we didn't get to have that conversation out the back of the Bondi massacre, man, something else awful is going to happen. I guarantee it. I mean, their own organs, the SBS, for example, are running stories every week saying things like, oh my God, how bad is it that all these child marriages are happening? Like, those stories are coming out. Like, people are noticing. The noticing is out there. And you can just feel it. Like, the whole country is on a tipping point, right? And this is why Albanese wanted the hate speech laws this badly, right? The hate speech laws, as they've been passed in Australia, as they're being used in the United Kingdom, they are not there to change anyone's mind. They're not there so that globalized homogenization can win. They don't believe they're going to help them win. They're delaying tactics, because while the right is there going, oh, how bad is it all our people are getting locked up for saying bigoted things online, they're not talking about the actual sane, coherent arguments in support of those bigoted things, right? And that's why they've done this. It's to buy them a couple of years.
Do you think there's again, just moving do you think there's any chance that I don't know, Hasty, because he kind of, he was on the cusp of taking over, and had, some credibility, and certainly did engage with the new right thinking globally to a certain extent. More than anyone else I've encountered. Had that great viral video on making stuff in Australia, was on Instagram, was changing it to a certain extent, and then he voted a different way on the hate group laws, or whatever they're calling them. And then it was almost as though that boosted One Nation at least 5% of the poll.
Massively.
Yeah.
Massively.
He could come
He could come back. I mean, look, don't rule anything out. I mean, look, the Hasty exam, when I look at Hasty now, I see the same scenario with JD Vance, right? If you go back to JD Vance when Hillbilly Elegy came out, and he was kind of being lionized as the future of the pre-MAGA US right, and then he came out in Trump 1.0 and said, no, I'm a never Trumper, I can't support him, whatever.
He's a Nazi.
That wasn't I think he said that, that wasn't the end of the Vance story. He was able to bring it back. And what I said at the beginning, this is my feeling about guys like Hasty, is that they are going to spend, if there's one thing we know Hasty does really well, it's spend 3 years in the wilderness, because he's been doing it for the last 9 years. The guy keeps getting put on a pedestal, and everyone on the right says, hey, it's the guy. Hasty's the future. And then he crashes and burns.
I make the point that it's kind of completely unfair to the guy, because we expect this individual representative to be philosopher king, fantastic, crisscross the country, all the meetings, all the donors, fantastic fundraiser, fantastic local member, writing op-eds every other day of the week, doing, stonking memes on this, that, and the other. I mean, it's just impossible. And there was the problem I thought with his thing was there was all the existing legacy right organizations were not making the case, he's got a point on manufacturing. We need to reconsider our trade arrangements, or we've got a point, like we need to reconsider. Yeah. Like there was no artillery backing for the guy. He was out there on his own.
Break it down though. I mean, Hasty, like who were Hasty's friends? Who was backing Hasty, right? Advance backed him. That was it, right? I think he believed Murdoch and the News Corp press were going to come in on a white horse and save him. I mean, but Jesus, man, read. I have an Australian subscription. Every single morning I have the same conversation with myself about cancelling my Australian subscription. Like it's
unreadable. It's the national
it's an unreadable joke newspaper. Yeah,
it's the national. You know what, John? It's the National Review of Australia. The Australian. That's what I think of it. It is. It's like, vaguely conservative, but complete. It's never Trumpish. There's no columnist on there which talks about new right in any coherent way. Any description of American politics is all over the shop, uninformed, hostile.
It might have been once upon a time, dude. But like, I talk to those journos. I talk to all the journos, right? To me, like, okay, I subscribe to one newspaper out of my own pocket, and out of all the journos I talk to, there is only one newspaper that I end those conversations thinking, yeah, they're all right, and it's the Australian Financial Review, right? To me, that is the newspaper review in Australia. They write actual news about financial issues. When you talk to those guys offline, they know what we're talking about, right? If I talk to an Australian journo, I have to start at the beginning and say, okay, so did you ever hear of this thing called the alt-right? Do you remember that from 2015? Whereas when I talk to an AFR journo, they're like, hey, I saw your tweet the other day about Will Stancil. Like, they're on shit. And
really? Yeah. Oh, they're very much. I mean, I said the other day to a mate that it's in George W. Bush era, still those guys, the Australian, in the John Howard, George W. Bush era, and they have not moved on. And everything, they'll agree with Trump if he's doing stuff that George W. Bush would have done. And if he's not doing that, then they will disagree with it. And it will try to shoehorn what he's doing into their own, whatever they think.
And that's why they're going to end up going under. Like, I don't think they're that relevant. I mean, for Hasty, and I think Hasty put a lot of his eggs in the Australian basket. I mean, where Hasty was going to do well would have been with the news tabloids. He should have engaged more with the Herald Sun. He should have done stuff on Victorian street-level crime. He should have done stuff in New South Wales, attacking New South Wales Labor. He should have done stuff with the Courier Mail, going after, like, native title and Indigenous stuff. Like,
you can only do so much. He's one guy. I got a little bit of sympathy for him. He's one dude with not enough support, and all the establishment right in Australia read the Australian opinion pages. And if Judith Sloan says, Hasty's crazy for bringing back manufacturing, they all nod along.
The future of the Australian right is saying fuck you to those guys. And if you can't grasp that, then you can't lead the Australian right, unfortunately. Like, if you're going to sit there, and I think this is the trap Hasty falls into. He I joke that a lot of the liberal right are bigger reactionaries than me, because what the liberal right really want is to go back to 2004. That's their fantasy. They want to go back to when they were relevant and when they went to press gallery parties and the midwinter ball was
literally writing the other day, we bring back Tony Abbott. I mean, this is
I know, right? And Hasty, I think, fell into that trap of looking backwards instead of looking forwards. And it's easy to do since so much of the online commentary is reactionary, to go, oh yeah, what the people want is, return to tradition. No. We've got to keep moving forward. And the biggest thing about moving forward is leaving these people in the past. And one of the ways you do that is ignoring them.
I think people underestimate, definitely in Trump's first election win, and even today, he does still throw the boomers a bone on a whole lot of things. Like he sort of does, he recognizes them as a constituency that is going to keep voting for them. Look, I haven't watched Fox News in years.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't watched it since Tucker left. Yeah.
I watched it. We had it on during the last presidential, the election when the results were coming in. And I was looking at those guys going, geez, I haven't actually seen these people. And they look, they look older. And I was like, wow, this still goes on.
How Trump is able to walk that line is just a personality thing, because I think in his heart of hearts, Trump is still on NBC and still doing the Apprentice. Like he still craves that kind of endorsement from the mainstream, and how he gets that is through that kind of Russell conjugation. Like he's going to play up so much that they have no choice but to give him airtime. That's how he kind of does it.
Do you ever wonder?
We don't have anyone like that.
I was thinking the other day, what does Trump? We all know about his posts on X and Truth, but what does he actually see when he scrolls? What's his timeline look like?
Who does he follow? I mean, does he even
the power of the algorithm in that? Like, what is? Because that's
that's a good question. What does Donald Trump see? Grok. I saw someone posted this the other day. Like, someone got Grok to tell them what Elon Musk sees, because Grok can actually tell you what someone else's algorithm looks like. And it was all like lame AI posts and stuff. But I don't know if you've been following my Twitter in the last couple of days, but my favorite thing I like doing at the moment is going into liberal politicians' feeds, and I get Grok to rewrite their posts to actually be interesting. And I just say, hey, the Liberals are losing 25 to 45-year-old men in these electorates. Rewrite this post. So I saw your one on
Dave Sharma recently. It was quite get rid of the emojis.
I've got Claudebot to write me an actual app to just keep doing it, because it's tedious to do it on its own. So I'm going to automate it for the next couple of years before the campaign. But these guys, the reason they talk like that is because they don't read any of this shit, right? Yeah. They're not engaged.
I think I saw a comment there. This guy said Hasty not being on X. I was surprised that guy is not on X. But I mean, the only people who are really on X are Matt Canavan is, but how can you not? There's an amazing amount of elected representatives that are not on X, and it's literally the number one news site in Australia.
Yeah,
and the elected reps are not on it, at least scrolling and reading their news each day from it. And how can you be informed about what's going on without it?
Well, and it's also the number one place where conservatives go.
I mean, it boggles the mind they're not doing that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, a lot of it, I think, is
you see new issues bubble up, and you see the arguments being had, and it's just a great source of education amongst other things, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's where people are making up their minds, right? And these guys are nowhere near that at all. Like they're not near the zeitgeist in any way, shape, or form. They don't know who any of the players are. I mean, the Guardian did a piece, I think yesterday, where they were talking about a guy who is like the future of the Australian right. He's running Australian Turning Point. He has less followers than me. And I looked at it and I hassled one of the editors of The Guardian, and I said, when's my piece coming? Inside the niche esoteric Twitter accounts. Do you molding the minds of the new right.
Remember when JD Vance's follower list came out? And it was and this guy was like, "Oh man, this dude's following like BAP and a good old
Curtis Yarvin."
Amy, shout out to Amy. She's awesome. She's still I think Miranda Devine interviewed JD Vance, but until that time, she was the only Australian quote unquote journo that had ever interviewed JD Vance, and no one had heard of her. And she I mean,
I think we lost Dan.
I'll tell you this, John. The staffers, they knew who Amy Therese is. They had never heard of Paul Kelly or Greg Sheridan or even Tony Abbott.
Well,
this is the kind of different universe that
you and I are great examples. Like, go through your Twitter account, I'll go through mine, and look at who follows us, right? Like, how many of these guys, and putting aside, some of them follow me because I used to work there, but who engages with us, right? And like, we are the nicest fucking guys in the new right. We're the only guys you can talk to on Twitter where you know that we won't say something insane, right? We won't, like, well, I might, but
lane, right?
Think about, yeah.
Are you still there, John? Or you seem to be having a bit of connection?
Yeah, no, you broke up.
I try to be a bit more ivory tower about the whole thing, right? Engage in the like the people, good guys who are doing the March of Australia and yourself, in a more rambunctious way, but there's not even any engagement at the sort of like at the the wine and cheese and cocktail party level.
Yeah, exactly. At the pointy head level.
The excuse that they can't engage because it's too kind of wild. It doesn't cut it. I mean,
it doesn't cut it anymore. Exactly. Yeah. Like, the point I'd make to them is like, so what? You wouldn't go into a country pub, right? You wouldn't go into a local RSL, like. I mean, the funny thing is, a lot of them wouldn't actually. Like, that's, if you look at them like that. Look at 7:30 report last week when they followed Barnaby around. Like, the novelty of that story is, oh, look, it's Barnaby talking to normal people in a bar. Yeah, because it's the only one that does that. No one else does that.
Again, I contrast the UK because it's the British Conservative Party, right? Quite different. And Robert Jenrick, he was going down into the tube and like photographing people jumping over the turnstiles, like fare dodgers, and then going around and doing these videos of people who had their tools nicked. And that just is not something you can almost imagine any of our elected reps doing, right? I just can't see it.
Not right now.
Why aren't they doing the Somali fraud NDIS stuff that Drew Pavlo?
Why is Drew Pavlo doing it?
Isn't it that a big enough?
Drew Pavlo is carrying Australian liberalism single-handedly
right
now.
Think about the amount of billions of dollars potentially he is saving the budget if that's because by putting a focus on that story.
The only problem is like they're not going to do anything about it because at least the US government has some federal angle on it. Like, ours won't, because again, it's the electoral priority. You don't want to piss these people off in marginal seats, and how we get past this.
We're talking about before how in DC they don't really know anything about Australian politics. But JD Vance and Elon know who Drew Pavlo is because they retweet.
Yeah, I
know. He's like the biggest name.
Yeah.
Like
there are more
politics by looking what Drew's up to. It's like, I mean,
think about what are the biggest stories of the last decade, right? So Gaza, Ukraine, the ICE protests, Trump, and you think about the tweets circulating on those stories, and the only Australian with any influence on those stories is Drew Pavlo, right? Well, Drew Pavlo is standing in Donbass with an AK-47.
I mean, Greg Connolly, as you know, has a bit of a following in the state, and Amy Therese and a few other and stuff. But but those names are not really known by readers of the Australian. No. They kind of but they're very reasonable, interesting people, and they have an influence. And so, I mean, like, again, with the Liberal Party, it sort of needs to, to reestablish. Like, if you're put in charge, John, of the Liberal Party and said, okay, the task, although it's a big one and a hard one, it's not beyond you. How does the Liberal Party establish both credibility on immigration, getting people to look at us anew, and having that kind of, sort of new right, like swagger and swerve that people are able to, that people relate to?
I'm not 100% sure you can do both, but I mean, if I had to try, I mean, if you go back to when the Liberal Party was at its most successful, 1996 to 2007, how it does that is through the fact that they can run in disparate geographic areas and appeal to numerous different demographics that don't know they're all being appealed to at the same time. And
but also,
so
talkback radio at that stage had a bigger influence, and I think there was more talkback in Australia than there was in the UK. Talkback wasn't quite as big a thing as it was.
Oh, absolutely. So you need to recapture that moment, to kind of bottle that again is going to mean going to the new media and finding the center of it, which doesn't really exist right now. Like, there's a lot of really good right-wing content online. There's a lot of really good left-wing content online too, if you're that way inclined. There's nothing in the middle. So the stuff that's in the middle, and I think actually Albanese got this in the last election. He just did it really badly. Like, the content in the middle is non-political. And so you kind of need to position yourself online with non-political stuff and talk to those people in their own language about the things that matter to them. You need to get into tax if you were the Libs. If the Libs wanted to win, go after the tax rates, right? Because you've got to because you want to do the two things at the same time. You want to hold these teal seats or win back these teal seats, and you want to get out into the rest of the country with a more kind of new right message. The only thing that can compute across both those cohorts is tax, and say, you are paying too much tax, and make that case. So they need to do the tax thing while they do the immigration thing. And I don't even know what that policy would look like, because it's kind of counterproductive, since we've got to get rid of all the immigrants. We're going to have less of a tax base. But that's the needle they would need to thread to have any hope of getting back. I just don't think they're going to bother. My intel out of the Libs is the moderates are sitting there right now going, good, this is great. We're going to get rid of all the conservatives, and we're going to have a run-up start in Goldstein and Kooyong and Wentworth and whatever the hell dumb Northern Beaches seats they want back, right? They don't care. They're sitting there going, yeah, this is fine. Like 15%. We can win all our key seats on 15%, and then we can all get box seats at the Mardi Gras. That's what the Liberal moderates are saying. So I don't think anyone in the Libs is ever going to sit there and go, how do we win government ever again? Like, that's never again going to be the calculus.
You know what I was saying is lacking a little bit? I mean, again, that podcast recently where Pauline was on, she reminded me, she was on Dancing with the Stars. And Nigel Farage had also been on, I'm a Survivor, get me out of here. And I almost feel like, Canavan or Hasty needs to go on something like Dancing with the Stars to get a bit more, just the dodgy mainstream.
You're right, but I just think in general they need to be more accessible to people. Like, they have this kind of standoffish attitude with the public. They're not conversational. This was one of the things about the US guys, whether it was Trump or Vance, like even Stephen Miller, right, had this conversational relationship with the American public where they would go on X, and every now and then someone would troll them and they'd reply, and they'd even just to say fuck you, like that kind of authenticity that you get from doing something that a real person would do. None of our politicians, left, right, and center, do that. They're not real people. Right?
And I always think that I think the thing with Trump is, like, he's constantly generating content. It's a bit like I said, a bit like Winston Churchill. He wrote so much, and Winston Churchill was, he was wrong on Mussolini. He was wrong on Japan invading, but he wrote so much that he created his own sort of story. People have moved on. Like, he was the one setting the narrative. And if you're keeping generating stuff, then everyone doesn't hark. You know how there's always in Australian politics, they hark back to some misstep, like Alexander Downer putting on a woman's boot or something, and that becomes the thing that defines them. They're not actually creating new cultural moments.
You've hit the nail on the head there, and it's the difference between, the particular difference you've seen between Trump and our guys is that Trump has no conception of the news cycle, right? You think about all of Trump's most iconic things he's ever said, and he says them at a bulkhead on Air Force One, in the middle of the night at the stairs, or like in the middle of nowhere, like walking to an event, right? When have you ever seen Trump dominate the news cycle at 11 a.m. in the morning, which is what every single Australian politician will tell you? Oh, that's when we've got to dominate the news cycle. We've got to get in there at 11 a.m. Like Trump doesn't give a fuck. Trump says things when Trump wants to say things. Trump is the news cycle, and the news cycle has to adapt to him. Our guys live in this, reactionary fantasy world where a newspaper editor decides when the news cycle is. Like, if I was Andrew Hastie, I would tweet at 11:30 at night just to fuck with the journos. I would drop shit at the most inconvenient times, to make them get out of bed and write content. Like,
I mean, they don't get that. Yeah, they think of some of them aren't even on X, which is amazing. But they think of social media and these things, or TikTok, as it's almost like showing their holiday snaps. Them being an interesting, lovely person. And that's,
look at me, I'm an ordinary jack-off.
Completely misses the point. Or them being funny or singing a song, or God knows what. It's the whole point is to engage, so you learn stuff and engage with the audience.
And the other whole point is to bypass the mainstream media and talk
100%.
to everyone else.
Yeah.
So if you if you think about the leadership ructions, Andrew Hastie should have tweeted the fact that he was not running. He should have got on Twitter and he should have said, I've decided not to run and here's why. And then when the journos called him, he's just said, fuck off. I just posted on Twitter. Beep. Like, hung up. Right.
I mean, I thought being just on Instagram, there are a lot of, I haven't seen the stats, but there are a lot of people who just use Instagram for their news. I have Instagram, but people send me messages and I will read them a week later because I haven't, barely check it. I find it boring. But I almost thought that being on Instagram might have been in a particular Australian slant on it all, his use of it, even though I find Instagram, is it not dominated by, is it predominantly women who use Instagram more than Twitter? Like, Twitter is
Instagram's the biggest women one. I mean, look, actually numerically, X is really low in Australia. Australia is dominated by Instagram 1, Facebook 2, then TikTok, then Snapchat, then X at the bottom.
Yeah. But in terms of the actual content and engagement, X is beyond, is far superior.
Well, and also when you then track what from X gets screenshotted and put on the others, what from X gets shared, like in terms of news making potential, X is the number one globally. That's why Elon can say it's the number one news site in the world. Instagram is increasingly right wing. Like, I mean, people were saying to me, like, I'm not on Instagram because I hate using social media apart from X. I like only having one. But people were saying to me like last year, you got to go on Instagram. It's so based there now. And it actually is.
That's what I've been hearing too, actually. Like, I've heard Instagram is actually probably a decent amount responsible for the One Nation rise.
Oh, 100%, man. And I also think that One Nation are doing a lot better amongst women than the mainstream media are letting on. But we won't know about that until the votes get tallied. The Facebook's kind of dead. Like, no one really uses Facebook. And look, TikTok's kind of vexed politically because no one wants to have a Chinese spy app on their phone. But look, just with the rest of it, you can run a good media strategy, right? But none of these guys are doing it. They're just they're running the 2004 media strategy. Like, here's a tile and here's me standing in front of a sign with some community people at a dog show or something. Like,
it's putting press releases on a new.
Well, yeah, which even One Nation does. Which, I mean, look, if we're going to be harsh, I mean, One Nation's social media strategy is just as bad. Like One Nation are not winning because of their social media strategy. One Nation are winning because of social media, but they're not doing anything about it. You go on their official channel, and it's a 9,000 word press release that is just fucking gobbledygook that no one's going to.
I mean, they made those videos for a while, which were kind of, and they've put this. You actually saw their new video, the whatever progressive movie stuff, and panned it, right?
I have watched. I think when I wrote my Substack about it, I'd watched 20 minutes. I've now watched a whole 40 minutes of it, so I'm almost halfway through. Like it's unwatchable. Like it's terrible. But
it's not even Team America sort of. It's not Team America. No, okay,
no.
Shit, okay.
I was joking. One of my best friends has a little boy. He's about 8, and I lived with him when he was 6, and he loved Rick and Morty, right? But he wasn't allowed to watch Rick and Morty. And so when my mate was out of the house, I'd let him watch Rick and Morty. And this little 6-year-old kid would then like replay, like he would tell you the plot of Rick and Morty episodes, but like the way a 6-year-old saw it. That's the super progressive movie. Like imagine if you let a 6-year-old watch an episode of Rick and Morty, then kind of like wrote it and had it produced. That's what it is.
Anyway, it's certainly
so bad. It is so bad.
It's different. I mean, at least it'll please some people. I imagine it's not pitched at.
It's not for us. Like it's not for us. And this is the big struggle. I think because and a lot of my friends are losing their minds about what's happening right now. And I keep saying to them, hey, we've been sitting here now for a decade saying something's got to change. The right has to change. We need a revolution. We need a radical reactionary revolution. And everyone kind of imagined that when it would happen, it'd just be like a bunch of smart guys like us doing it. Of course, it hasn't happened like that. Like it's the retards. It's the people. Like it's bogans.
Dude,
I read the other day. Like, that's who's doing it.
Not to be all snotty about it, but I read the other day that if you have an IQ less than 100, which is half the population, God bless them, a lot of fine people, you don't understand what per capita. You struggle with the concept of per capita.
No, they don't. They absolutely don't.
Think about that. Trying to make any of the smarty pants arguments that you see on X.
Yeah. But you're doing it to people who don't understand per capita. Yeah.
Per capita.
And look, but we look. It kind of was always going to be like this, right?
Yeah.
Like the difference is in the US is that they have such a huge body politic. And it's so deep and broad that even if the world's biggest retard is standing out the front running for president, you can always find there'll be people in the administration that you can go, okay, well, it'll be fine. Like maybe Donald Trump's not that smart, but he's got a lot of smart people in there. But that can't happen in a country like ours of 26 million people. When it happens here, it's going to be a retard surrounded by retards. And dude, we just have to deal with it, unfortunately. Like, look, it'd be great if we were doing it. It'd be amazing. Like, if they'd probably be on 30% already, but it's not. It was never going to go down that way. Because we would have fucked it up.
Needs to return in glory to Australia, reclaim what's hers. I think she's like, I saw her the other day. She has the right star, Trump level star business. She's pretty based.
Yeah.
She's sort of like, she's patriotic. She uses the word retard in a sentence without blinking. Which
and then they cut her off and they shut down the news feed.
Yeah, I mean that's my litmus test from now on. If you can use the word, that type of word without thinking about it, which is so like, I mean, someone like that. I'm actually, but you moved on. I'm on Team Holly now.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, maybe this is how we win.
She's got money, man. She's there's lots to like.
One Nation could potentially just be so far up their own asshole on winning Senate seats, they won't notice when we start running based people in the lower house.
Holly would
run the government.
Holly would be popular in the teal seats. She could sell, Maha. She could, she's versatile, and she's it. She's the.
This is the unfortunate. I reckon there'll be more come out of the woodwork, right? And like the other thing is, women are increasingly turning, and I reckon you're going to see a lot more women coming out of the woodwork supporting One Nation in the next month or so, because the seal is broken now, right? There's that whole consensus filter thing. Like they don't want to back something unless they know it's going to be successful. I think we're going to see a lot of women jumping on board the One Nation train over the next few months. I mean, hopefully they do better recruiting.
One Nation branded Louis Vuitton bags in Military Road in Sydney. One Nation.
That'd be good, actually.
It becomes high status to vote for One Nation.
Yeah, a One Nation Birkin or something. I could see that happening. Like, I don't know. The virtue signal from the left doesn't really exist anymore. Like, they don't have someone for everyone to vote for, which they have done the last few times. Like the Teals had their big names; they've all kind of washed out. Albanese's done not great. He doesn't let the Labor women out much. Like he's got some really impressive women, but none of them are really front and center of the operation.
You know what I wasn't aware of, and this is, but everyone has their own little bubble. But Candace Owen, I've become aware that women who've been tuning into Candace Owen for her takes on like the Blake Lively, tete-a-tete, which Candace apparently covers very well. They follow that. Because she does it better than anyone, and then obviously pick up a little bit of the whole
Candace telling them that the ghost of Charlie Kirk has talked to her.
The rest of the wide-eyed
and he was killed by the Rothschilds.
I haven't listened to Candace in a million years.
I watched it recently as a joke, and I was like, I got a pretty high tolerance for conspiracy shit. I was freaked out. Like when even I'm freaked out, going, shit, man. That's when my eyebrow raises when I'm watching a streamer talking about an insane conspiracy theory. It's bad.
I'm just saying there are a surprising number of people who you wouldn't suspect that are actually following Candace for a showbiz takes or a showbiz analysis, and can tell you every last little twist and turn of the Emmanuel Macron thing.
She's great.
And they are teal voters.
Well, that was, I mean, we've talked about the Libs a bunch. I mean, tonight, I think when I put the hype post out earlier, that was the other thing I want to talk about tonight was Epstein, because of course that's the big news, right? But Candace is already losing his shit about that. Like,
what's the? I haven't dived in. I haven't other things. What's the? Are there any Australian angles there? What's that have come out of that?
There's a few. There's the main one is Rudd, right? Because Rudd has been saying for 3 years, I never met Epstein. I had nothing to do with Epstein. And now there's an email from the Prime Minister of Norway saying, oh yeah, my friend Kevin Rudd, who I also believe is your best friend, is coming. And then he appears in a guest list on a couple of things. So the Rudd thing's in there. But other than that, it's really not
actually anything incriminating, because I mean, it just all seems
not really. No.
Low level.
It's prosaic. Dude, look, the guy. Look, I mean, it's funny because when you read all there's 3 million messages. No one's ever going to get through all of them. I've probably read maybe 100,000. He's not dumb. I mean, he sounds dumb when he types, but he's clearly not a dumb guy. He's not going to be writing on his Jeffrey Epstein @Gmail account, I'm doing a bunch of sex crimes with my rich friends this weekend. Who wants to come? That's abundantly clear. But
the impression of the guy I get is he's sort of this smarmy, mid-witty kind of guy who he's pretty bored with his life, really, at some level, and yet kind of gets off on.
There's more. I do get the impression there's more to him than that. There is something going on there. I'm not in on the QAnon fucking Jeffrey Epstein conspiracies and stuff, and I don't think Israel had anything to do with it. But there is he was up to some shit. is what the emails reveal. A lot of it was to do with stock picks. Like a lot of it was influence trafficking. Like he's talking to guys like the stuff about Ukraine is really interesting because of course he goes to prison in, I think, 2016. And so in 2014, when Russia first invades Ukraine, there's like this burst of emails between him and like guys like Peter Thiel and like US congressmen where he's saying, yeah, this is a really great opportunity for us to make a lot of money. There's things like that in there that are really interesting.
There was obviously the Bill Gates revelation was kind of big.
The Gates stuff is really interesting because Gates had kind of escaped from this so far with this kind of wink and a nudge, like, oh yeah, I just like getting fucked up with Jeff. I didn't know what he was into. We were just friends. But the emails make it clear that wasn't the case. Because he's really standoffish in the emails. Like, it's very professional. It's clear they had a business relationship. Like, there's nothing in the emails about weird island sex parties with Gates, but there is a lot of stuff about Epstein and Gates's business relationship in there, which I thought was quite interesting. But look, it's like it's a magic mirror, you know. Like, everyone sees what they want to in it. Poor Claire Lehman got smashed up on Twitter this week because she said, "Is it just me or is this really boring?" And everyone lost their mind at it. Like,
I mean, I must admit, I'm not quite as into it as I feel like others are, but I just haven't had time to probably focus on it all as much. I don't know. Like, it does seem like he's just a dirty little rich dude who is he actually probably related to different governments and. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that was an interesting thing that the News Corp press did this week is the kind of trying to blame it all on Russia, which is
I saw that. Like, everything's Russia.
Like, seriously, like
I did see
everyone
that.
who's ever like that's a whole new level of psyop on it that I hadn't even thought of. But
wasn't it like the Bill Gates slept with the Russian hookers, therefore it must be Putin? Isn't that the kind?
Oh yeah, just because the only people sleeping with Russians are compromised by Russia. Yeah. That was a weird one. Look, I mean, I have a really like succinct theory on Epstein that kind of I do think he was an asset. But like the narrative, so now we have the Russian narrative concocted by News Corp in the last 48 hours, which is bullshit. Before that, it was the Epstein works for Mossad thing, which is kind of the lie to that is that Epstein is in these emails bitching about Mossad because it's widely known they killed Ghislaine Maxwell's father, right? Like, why would he then go and work for Mossad after that? The best theory I've heard, which is on a really good guy online called Simon Dovey, he's written a couple of good books about this stuff, basically lays out the case that it's Evelyn de Rothschild was his handler, and all this stuff had nothing to do with intelligence. It wasn't national security shit. He wasn't spying on people. That's not why he was getting compromised. They were Rothschild's clients. And it was about getting them on the hook to stay being clients. Why do you think he was so interested in Prince Andrew, a guy who, by all accounts, was a loser that no one liked hanging out with? That was
in some ways, it's reassuring that these like super rich people are kind of losers. Like Bill Gates sort of comes off as an overworked, like overweight middle management guy who likes nothing better than using his money to get his rocks off. And it's kind of like, great dude, you know. Like
I wrote a Substack a couple of days ago about this. That the problem is when you're an American and you don't have legalized sex work, it's no big deal to go, oh well, I'll just go to an underage sex party with Jeffrey Epstein because if I got caught with a regular prostitute or caught with an underage prostitute, it's the same problem. Like everything's illegal. I think that's kind of the genesis of it. That's why you never hear this shit happening in Australia, right?
I don't know what. I mean, it does seem as though, you know, they have their Somali fraud in Minnesota. We have our NDIS in the western suburbs. I wouldn't put it past that we have some sort of similar. Who would be? Is there an Australian Jeffrey Epstein sort of character hanging out in? I don't know where they would hang out. Melbourne.
If there was, I would know him. And no, I don't think. I really don't think there is. Like, I think Australian punters.
Oh, good, we're clean.
That stuff.
Yeah. Cool, man. Hey, I might jump off in about 5. Are there any other closing things that you want, or you keep it going?
No, man. I think we covered everything. I was gonna do Epstein. Oh, the other thing I'm gonna do with the chat is F's in the chat for Dan Andrews, who's extremely sick right now. Yeah. I'm because thoughts and prayers for Dan Andrews, because whenever one of our guys dies, the left goes crazy. And they celebrate it. They do like Al Qaeda AK-47s in the air over it. So I'm looking forward to anything that happens to Dan Andrews, because I'm not going to hold back. No, fuck that. We're going to
Green Goblin. Jordan is alive. I can confirm. He writes for Sky News. He
proof. Yeah, he wants proof of life confirmation. Actually, this is Jordan, and we're using a Dan Ryan AI overlay. But yeah,
take off the mask. Yeah, no, cool, man. I might leave you to it. Leave you wrap up, but always good to chat. And,
thank you, brother.
Keep having a good fight. See ya. Bye.
Thank you, man. Great talking to you. Thank you.
Always. See ya. Bye.
Friends, Romans, countrymen. That was Dan Ryan from National Conservatives Australia. One of the most influential figures in the nascent Australian New Right. Great of him to come on and save me from having to talk to you guys alone again. And still not happy with the Brian situation, with him abandoning me. What's going on, guys? Open forum. Open forum. Hit me in the chat. We'll talk about anything. I had a big night tonight. I had a few beers, in case you didn't notice. Had a nice dinner in town. Met some cool dudes. Brian Marlowe, proof of life confirmation from Green Goblin. Yeah, we're waiting. None yet. Brucey says, did you see the James Ashby TLD clip? Brucey, I have bad news for you, bro. That was AI. And I actually think the kid who made that is in the chat right now. So if you want to own up to it, now's your chance. Caliburn, is Tony Burke still holding Brian in Gitmo / Christmas Island? We believe he might be. Yeah. The Rothschilds have finally got a hold of him. And they're keeping him in prison. FaZe says, where are the new right university clubs? The liberal clubs are collapsing. Lol. That's a good question. I am involved, right? No, not involved, but like kind of engaged right now, talking to some of these guys in the university clubs. There is some very early discussion about a John McGowan Stream of Consciousness campus tour early in the year. So stay tuned for that. If you're on campus, they might even let me on a couple. Iron Deficiency Animus says, John, any wacky tales of being tangential to Scary Rich? Well, if you saw my latest Substack, I kind of outlined some of them. I don't know, man. There's always some funny stories. I got to write the if you read that Substack, I kind of alluded to it, the story about Dr. Sissy, the cocaine monkey from Zurich. Which is just hands down one of the funniest stories. And I keep meaning to finish writing it, but it's hard because I've told it so many times in person. It's kind of tedious to write it. So I'm actually thinking maybe one of the best ways to tell everyone is to do a pub tour. And by pub tour, I mean I show up to a pub near you and you buy me a bunch of drinks. And then I'll tell you the story of Dr. Sissy. Interesting thing. Iron Deficiency Anima says, I thought Dr. Sissy was wacky rich. No, he wasn't even rich. He was a monkey. He was the actual monkey. I only realized recently that I don't think his name was Dr. Sissy, but that Zizi is in like French Swiss, like penis. And so I think his name was actually Dr. Penis, but I haven't spoken to that guy again who owned him, so I'm never going to know. Yeah, Bully Bullput says, come to UTS, please. That is the uni I am least likely to go to. I think Wendy Bacon would probably attack me with acid if I went anywhere near there. Nitro Slytherin says, any progress with Abby Chatfield? No, none. Apparently she was at the races, though. I saw Mark Latham tweeted something about it, and I actually tweeted a really beautiful photo of her. Like, she looked amazing. Abby looks incredible when she doesn't wear makeup. Someone needs to tell her she does not need to wear that much makeup. Like, natural Abby Chatfield looks spectacular. Sebastian says, what about the McGowan dating advice stream? Dude, I got nothing for you, man. I'm just washing out right now. It sucks, dude. And I don't want to blame it on geography, but Tasmanian Hinge is fucking miserable. Like, it is so bad. The only good dates I go on are with Chinese science students because they're the only ones with IQs over 110. Glenn says, who is James Ashby? His name comes up in my feed more often, mate. I feel like if someone wants to volunteer to do this, maybe we need a stream of consciousness wiki, like a Wikipedia page, but for stream of consciousness with all our niche people. Ethereal Chudcell just said, someone mentioned me. Yes, Ethereal Chudcell, I was talking about you because you did that AI video of James Ashby doing the TLD thing. So whoever asked about that, ask you to confirm that it's AI. Faye says, AFR saying Albo is going after the capital gains tax discount. You reckon the Liberal Party will find new life opposing the change? Come on, man. Really? Do you think the Liberals are going to find any new life at this point? No, I don't think so. No. Green Goblin says, we need a John McGowan iceberg of the New Australian right. It's not really that much going on with our guys, though, is there? Like, it's really just me and our friends. Like, in fact, if you are posting in this chat, you are probably a significant enough identity in the New Australian right to warrant your own entry. Like, it's not a big scene, man. Especially not now that the Nazis have kind of died off. They were kind of a big deal for a while. Now they're gone. So if you're in here, you are the New Australian right. You could potentially be the big dog in the future. Bully Bullpit says, favorite indie rock band of the late 2000s, 2010s. Oh, man, that's a hard one. Do you know what, dude? I was a massive Marilyn Manson fan. Massive. Huge Marilyn Manson fan in the 2000s. Huge. I was lucky enough. I never met him, but I did once fuck a stripper who fucked him the night before. So I've basically met him. Probably my favorite band of the late 2000s. But I mean, you said indie rock. I guess it's more kind of industrial rock. I don't know, indie rock. I was massively into Smashing Pumpkins, like in that early, like late 90s, early 2000s period. Nine Inch Nails, I was into them. I never got into the whole kind of hipster revival thing of the early 2000s. I never liked the Strokes or Vampire Weekend or any of those guys. Breadmaker says, John, would you be willing to lead a national project to make Goyim our word? No. Dude, I don't want to get the Jews offside, man. I got to make money in this town. Can someone... Ethereal Chutcell wants a slab of Asahi Dry, and I'm guessing in return for his great AI video. Someone buy it for him. Ethereal Chutcell, get yourself Stripe or some kind of payment platform. We'll get the guys to send you some cash. Lee Kuan Yew Respecter is in. Indie Sleeve. Jeffrey Edelstein didn't kill himself. Gerald Pym likes Offspring. Man, really, dude? Come on, man. They sucked. I don't know, like, who were the best, like, kind of indie... Do you know? Okay, this is gay as shit, but you know who I really liked in that period? I liked Placebo a lot. I really liked Placebo, and because I was a massive David Bowie fan, still am. I really, really dug Placebo in that period. Because back then, like, I mean, nowadays, well, you guys don't realize, because nowadays you like live in your basements and you can listen to whatever the fuck you want and no one cares. But when I was a kid, what you listened to, like, was like a public thing, right? So it reflected on you amongst women. So you couldn't have shitty taste in music if you wanted pussy, right? Like guys who got super into Sepultura, like, that's great if you never want to get laid, but if you wanted to get laid, you had to be into something cool like Placebo or Garbage or I don't know, like there was that period where Evanescence was really big. I was kind of into them. Enoch is obviously a Tism guy. I could see that coming. Breadmaker says Red Hot Chili Peppers. The Swing State mentions, you had to go to Sanity to buy a CD. Yes, you did. And that was super fucking expensive, man. Like singles cost $10 even in the early 2000s. It was crazy. Yeah. Someone with too long a username says, fuck, man, this is brutal chat. How many of our guys are millennial boomers? Bro, I'm not even, I'm a Generation X boomer. Thank you very much. I'm like twice as old as these guys. Gerald Pym says, remember buying CDs at the servo? Yeah, only porn. That's the only CDs you can buy at the servo. Breadmaker is trying to convince you to listen to classical music so you can date repressed librarians. Breadmaker, if you find one of these repressed librarians, please tell me. Enoch Bowden says Custard. Actually, one of my best friends is like one of the like world's biggest super fans of Custard and can play all their songs on guitar, which is a useless party trick. But that's the only reason I know who they are. Guys, it's been fun. I think we had a fun night with Dan Ryan. I'm still bitter about no Brian and having to carry this thing. How did our numbers do tonight? Let's have a look. 39,000. Not bad. If you want to get mad, go over to The Guardian and read. And it's late enough now, I can just say this. I didn't want to start a feud with the guy, so I wasn't going to say this on main, but I'll say this to you guys now that I know it's only like our top G's are here. Like, I can see from the comments, it's only top G's in here now, so I'm going to say the truth. The Guardian put this thing up today about George Mamalis. You know this guy, right? So I don't know if you like want to get like deep into McGowan law, but he was the guy with like 500 fucking followers we invited on Drew's stream one night that I kind of infamously said that Beck Freedom's baby was a Nazi. That's the only reason this guy is relevant, because he happened to be on a podcast when I said that thing that I have massively apologized for since then. He got written up in the fucking Guardian today. They wrote him up in the Guardian, like the future of Australian conservatism. Like because he's become a fucking Christian or some shit. Like he's deep into Jesus. And now he's like running a Turning Point franchise. I'm super mad about it. Because we do actually incredible numbers. Like we downplay the numbers on the X stream because it's just the turnover from the promotion. But like when you look at the back end of it, which I see, we're still beating every other Australian politics stream every fucking week. Like we do better numbers than Avi. Like we do shit numbers on YouTube because none of us like using YouTube. But like stream of consciousness, I think we can actually authoritatively say is the biggest stream on Australian right-wing politics X, right? Journos just won't fucking engage with me. They want to talk to all these like losers. Just guys that aren't as cool as us. And I'm super mad about it. Like, so if any of you are talking to journos, tell them, call me. Throw some lines in. Yeah. Green Goblin says, I just need to do Insta and live stream. Man, I can't, dude. I'm old. I hate using other social medias. I find it a real punish. It's hard enough for me to use X, honestly. Like, and you know the honest truth, man, I have Claudebot now. Like, have you noticed how much I've been posting this week? Do you know why I'm posting that much? Because Claudebot posts for me. Like, because it's a, you got to go in there and you got to navigate around, you got to type it all out. With Claudebot, I can yell at my phone. Like, I can just be walking down the street and a great tweet can come to me and I can yell it. I don't even have to take the phone out of my pocket and I can talk to it and it goes straight on X. So, yeah, that's why I'm not doing any other social medias. Enoch says it's a professionalism, it's a production values. I like these production values. Guys, one day I'm not going to be here anymore. I'm going to die one day. And I want this stuff to be an enduring record of me. And I want it to be the same grainy, shit-filtered video as Jonathan Bowden had. And I want you to remember me like the closest thing Australia has to a Jonathan Bowden. That's why we will never improve our production values. In fact, I might even make them worse. Iron Deficiency Animus says, John, can I DM on Substack? Well, yeah, dude. It's not like I charge for it. Anyone can DM me on Substack. It would be helpful if you were a woman, but I'm guessing you're not. What's News came in just to say RIP. Why? What's that about? Is it for your own stream that doesn't do as amazing numbers as mine? Aristocrat Tacombe says granny videos and Tassie pub speeches when they don't let me talk in Tassie pubs. All the Tassie pubs are for left-wing communists. I was lucky enough to get the Australia Day speech filmed. Yeah. What do you mean, Gerald? My audio quality is fantastic. I have this massive microphone. It's fantastic. All right, guys. It is 10:30. Miracle stream. I literally walked in the house and got it turned on right on 8:30. I didn't even know Dan Ryan was coming on tonight. I had no idea. I should have probably checked my messages. So that was fun. Dan's an amazing guy. I hope you all follow him on all his various channels. He's one of the more serious guys in the movement right now that you should definitely follow. Base Australian History says, how left-wing is Tassie? Like, pretty fucking left-wing, dude. Yeah. What's News says, do TikTok debates. Fuck that. I'm not doing debates full stop. I just can't see the point in it. Like, why do you want to argue with losers? Right? The only person, I wouldn't even debate anyone in the Australian left. Like, I do like a panel or something with like Purple Pingers because I think he's actually quite entertaining. But I can't see myself ever debating fucking anyone. It'll just be retarded. We don't need clips. Green Goblin, get Context Capybara to set up on Insta next week. We can't. Context Capybara, who is still here, by the way, Enoch is in the chat. And this stream would not be possible without Enoch. So even though he's not on the stream anymore, he sets it up. He tells me what the things are that we're talking about. He booked Dan Ryan. Like, I can't stress this enough that I literally walked in my house and sat down and turned my computer on and did this with no knowledge of any of this. Did Brian do it? Where is Brian? I miss Brian. I want Brian back. Yeah, guys, just give mad love to Enoch. Yeah. We're calling him the Jet Neptune of the New Australian Right. Enoch's gonna organize Australian Right fish tank for me. Yeah. I only just thought of that then, and it's fucking spectacular. You should change your name to Enoch Neptune, actually. All right, losers. I gotta go to bed. I gotta work in the morning. Stay conscious. Do something. Do some political work this week. Go outside and talk to women. Be nice to your mum. Read a book. I don't know. That's all the advice I got for you. I'm not Andrew Tate. All right. Love you, losers. See you soon.